Hello and welcome, hello and welcome, and hello and welcome. I'm Zoma.
And I'm Lucas, and today we are reading CreepyPastas!
But before that, I just wanted to make an announcement. I beat this guy at Battleship.
He beat me twice. Twice in a row.
It was amazing.
It was pretty cool. We did the same strategy, he just pulled it off better. Honestly, pretty cool.
Whereas basically, we just put the ships all together. And just
except for the first round, you just got so lucky with hitting all of my fucking ships somehow. I placed them in random ass spots.
Yeah. My tactic of putting them all on the edges, except for one, worked surprisingly well.
I was like, oh my god. And then you put it in the same spot again, and I went there, and I was like, oh, you piece of work, dude.
Because it was funny.
It was funny.
So anyways, I already have one of my creepypastas ready. He will have a short one ready, and then we have two more.
And then we'll have two, and we'll be reading those together. Of course, we'll be doing voices for characters. You know, gotta be immersive.
So, you ready for me to go?
Of course.
Okay. This one's from June 13th, 2010. Known as Dead Bart. You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes? They refuse to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent. The reason for this is a lost episode from Season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the lost episode was written entirely by Matt Groening during the production of the first season. Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was present results in them getting very angry and forbidding you to ever mentioning it to Matt. The episode's production number was 7G44. The title was Dead Bart. In addition to getting angry, asking anyone who is on the show about this will cause them to do everything they can to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to somehow follow him after he spoke to a crowd. And eventually he had a chance to talk to him as he was leaving the building. He didn't seem upset that I had followed him, probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode, though, all color drained from his face and he started to tremble. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a website addressed on it. I would rather not say what it was, for reasons you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser, and I came to a site. The page reloaded.
It's like, this page is really... It's so many ads. Just... Oh, a problem.
Okay, where was I?
This is the problem with these fucking creepypastas, man.
It doesn't want me to read it. That's how badly they don't want you to hear it. Okay. The piece of paper... Mother, it reloaded again!
Yeah. No way. That's so sad. It's okay.
I'm going to get someone telling me to read better.
Read. You need to read, man. I need you to read it. Come on. Come on.
Okay.
Did it reload?
No, I was starting to read it and an ad popped up.
There's so many ads.
Okay. Please don't reload on me, please. Please.
I did find one.
Okay. The piece of paper had a website addressed on it. I would rather not say what it was. For reasons you'll see in a second, I entered the address into my browser and came to a site that was completely black, except for a line of yellow text. A download link. I clicked on it, and a file started downloading. Once the file was downloaded, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I had ever seen. System restore didn't work. The entire computer had to be rebooted.
Rebooted.
Before doing this, though, I copied the file into a CD. I tried to open it into my new empty computer. As I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode started off like any other episode, but had very poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation of Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar, but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Homer seemed angrier. Marge seemed depressed. Lisa seemed anxious. Bart seemed to have genuine anger and hatred for his parents. The episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip near the end of the first act. The plane was taking off. Bart was fooling around as you'd expect. However, as the plane was about 50 feet off the ground, Bart broke a window on the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of The Simpsons would represent death, and that death turns things more realistic. This was used in this episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took full advantage of not having to move, and made the almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body.
The page reload?
Yeah.
No, it's a really great page.
Yeah,
It's a really good page.
It's amazing. I love it when I'm trying to do something and then immediately I get brought to the reload page for the fourth time. I get it. It was on a piece of paper.
We're so close.
This is a 4-minute thing and
It's been like at least 4.
Act 1 ended with a shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 had started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting at the table crying. The crying went on and on. It got more pained and sounded more realistic. Better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried, and you could hear murmuring in the background. This crying went on for all of Act 2. Act 3 opened with a title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were skeletally thin and sitting at the table. There was no sign of Maggie or the pets. They decided to visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted. As they walked to the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was just laying in the front of the tombstone, looking just like it did at the end of Act 1. The family started crying again. Eventually they stopped, and just started to stare at Bart's body. The camera zoomed in on Homer's face. According to the summaries, Homer tells a joke at this part, but it isn't audible in the version I saw. You can't tell what Homer is saying. The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the names of every Simpsons guest star on them, some that no one had heard of in 1989, some that haven't been in the show yet. All of them had death dates on them, for guess who died since, like Michael Jackson and George Harrison. The dates were when they would die. You could try to use the tombstones to predict the death of living Simpsons guest stars, but there's something odd about most of them. Most of the ones that haven't died yet. All their deaths are listed at the same date.
Is that it?
I believe that's it.
Awesome. I have one.
And
I reload ahead.
Okay, I wish you luck.
I have one that is Lavender Town Syndrome.
Okay.
It says about 2 minutes of reading. So, it's time to figure out if that's true. The Lavender Town Syndrome, also known as Lavender Town Tone or Lavender Town Suicides, was a peak in suicides and illness of children between the ages of 7 to 12 shortly after the release of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, back in February 27, 1996. Rumors say that these suicides and illness only occurred after the children playing the game reached Lavender Town, whose theme music had extremely high frequencies that studies showed that only children and young teens can hear since their ears are more sensitive. Due to the lavender tone, at least 200 children supposedly committed suicide, and many more developed illnesses and afflictions. The children who committed suicide usually did so by hanging or jumping from heights. Those who did not act irrationally complained of severe headaches after listening to Lavender Town's theme. Although Lavender Town now sounds differently depending on the game, this mass hysteria was caused by the first Pokemon game released. After the Lavender Tone incident, the programmers had fixed Lavender Town's theme music to be at a lower frequency, and since then, children were no longer affected by it. One video appeared in 2010 using special software to analyze the audio of Lavender Town's music. When played, the software created images of the unknown near the edge of the audio. This raised a controversy since the unknown did not appear until the Generation 2 games, Silver, Gold, and Crystal. The unknown translate to leave now. There is also the said beta version of Lavender Town. It is said that the beta version of Pocket Monsters was released to some kids to test the game. This is the video of the beta version of Lavender Town, and then it doesn't show me a video. Oh, it does, and I can't play it. And that's it. That was it. It was just very short.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like how the ones that I genuinely thought Lavender Town was a lot longer, and Dead Bart.
Yeah. This one says, I have one that says I found a letter from my stalker, and it's 12 minutes.
Okay.
But then you also have yours, right?
Yeah. Alright, so you want to do this one?
Oh my god, yes. I do want to do that one. Wait, is that one 12 minutes?
Yeah, it's about 12 minutes. So we can do the letter, and we can do this one.
Okay, so do you want to do Smile Dog first?
Yeah, we can do it. How about we do this one together, every paragraph?
Yeah.
But if it crashes, the other person just continues going.
Yeah. Okay, this is the Smile Dog creepypasta. The only creepypasta that I know of. Besides, like, I just Jeff the Killer because I don't know any. And, like, Slenderman, I guess, is a creepypasta.
Ben Drowned, you don't know?
I don't know that one.
Okay. I'll start. I first met in person with Mary E. in summer of 2007. I had arranged with her husband of 15 years, Terrence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed since I was not a newsman, but rather an amateur writer gathering information for a few early college assignments, and, if all went according to plan, some pieces of fiction. We scheduled the interview for a particular weekend when I was in Chicago on unrelated business. But at the last moment, Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet me. For half an hour, I sat with Terrence as we camped outside the bedroom door. I listening and taking notes while he attempted fruitlessly to calm his wife.
The things Mary said made little sense, but fit with the pattern I was expecting. Though I could not see her, I could tell from her voice that she was crying, and more often than not, her objections to speaking with me centered around an incoherent diatribe on her dream, her nightmares. Terrence apologized profusely when we ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride. Recall that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, but merely a curious young man in search of information. Besides, I thought at the time I could perhaps find another, similar case if I put my mind and resources to it.
Mary E. was the CSOP of a small Chicago-based bullet board system in 1992 when she first encountered Smile.jpg, and her life changed forever. She and Terrence had been married for only 5 months. Mary was one of the estimated 400 people who saw the image when it was posted as a hyperlink on the BBS. Though, she is the only one who has spoken openly about the experience. The rest have remained anonymous or are perhaps dead.
In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, Smile.jpg was first brought to my attention by my burgeoning interest in web-based phenomena. Mary was the most often cited victim of what is sometimes referred to as Smile.dog. The being Smile.jpg is reputed to display. Reputed. I think that's supposed to say reported. Reputed to display. What caused my interest, other than the obvious macabre elements of the cyber legend and my proclivity towards such things, was the sheer lack of information. Usually to the point that people don't believe it even exists other than as a rumor or hoax.
It is unique because though the entire phenomenon centers on a picture file, the file is nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly many photo-manipulated simulacra litter the web, showing up with the most frequently on sites such as Imageboard 4chan, particularly the Dash X focused paranormal subboard. It is expected these are fakes because they do not have the effect the true Smile.jpg are believed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety.
This purported reaction in the viewer is one of the reasons the phantom-like Smile.jpg is regarded with such disdain, since it is patently absurd. Though, depending on whom you ask, the reluctance to acknowledge Smile.jpg's existence might be just as much out of fear as it is out of disbelief. Neither Smile.jpg nor Smile.dog is mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features articles on such other, perhaps more scandalous shock sites as redacted word, it doesn't say it, and then hello.jpg or 2 girls 1 cup. Any attempt to create a page pertaining to Smile.jpg is summarily deleted by any of the encyclopedia's mini admins. Okay, that one I just read wrong.
Encounters with Smile.jpg are the stuff of internet legend. Mary E.'s story is not unique. There are unverified rumors of Smile.jpg showing up in the early days of Usenet, and even one persistent tale that in 2002, a hacker flooded the forums of humor and satire websites. Something awful was a deluge of Smile Dog pictures, rendering almost half of the forum users at the time epileptic.
It is also said that in the mid to late 90s, that Smile.jpg circulated on Usenet and as an attachment of a chain email with the subject line, "Smile, God loves you." Yet, despite the huge exposure these stunts would generate, there are very few people who admit to having experienced any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered.
Those who claim to have seen Smile.jpg often weakly joke that they were too busy to save a copy of the picture to their hard drive. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo: a dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by the flash of the camera, sits in a dim room, the only background detail that is visible being a human hand extending from the darkness near the left side of the frame. The hand is empty, but is usually described as beckoning, of course. Most attention is given to the dog, or dog creature, as some victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen.
My thing reset.
The muzzle of the beast is reputedly split in the wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very white, very straight, very sharp, very human-looking teeth.
Hold on, I have to find it.
This is, of course, not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection of the victims, who claim to have seen the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye during the time they are, in reality, having epileptic fits. These fits are reportedly to continue indeterminately, often while the victims sleep, resulting in very vivid and disturbing nightmares. These may be treated with medication, though in some cases it is more effective than others.
Mary E., I assumed, was not on effective medication. That was why, after my visit to her apartment in 2007, I sent out feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented news groups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of a supposed victim of Smile.jpg who felt more interested in talking about his experiences. For a time, nothing happened, and at length I forgot completely about my pursuits, since I had begun my freshman year of college and was quite busy. Mary contacted me via email, however, near the beginning of March 2008.
Added by Moose Juice. 2. jml@blank.com. From Mary E. Should I continue? Subject: last summer interview. Dear Mr. L., I am incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope you understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led to me to act as I did. I realize that I could have handled the situation more decorously. However, I hope you will forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years, I've been haunted by smile.jpg. Smile.dog comes to me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. There is an ineffable quality about my dreams, my nightmares, that makes them completely unlike any dreams I have ever had. I do not move and I do not speak. I simply look ahead, and the only thing ahead of me is a scene from that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand. I see Smile Dog. It talks to me.
It is not a dog, of course, though I am not quite sure what it really is. It tells me it will leave me alone if only I do as it asks. All I must do, it says, is spread the word. That is how it phrases its demands, and I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else. Big ass block of advertisement.
Weird.
And I could. The week after my incident, I received in the mail a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3 1/2-inch floppy disk diskette. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. I thought for a long time about my options. I could show it to a stranger, a coworker. I could even show it to Terrence. As much as the idea disgusted me. And what would happen then? Well, if Smile.dog kept its word, I could sleep. Yet if it lied, what would I do? And who was to say something worse would not come for me if I did as the creature asked?
So I did nothing for 15 years, though I kept the diskette hidden amongst my things. Every night for 15 years, Smile Dog has come to me in my sleep and demanded that I spread the word. For 15 years I have stood strong, though there may have been hard times. Many of my fellow victims on the BBS board where I first encountered the Smile.jpg stopped posting. I heard some of them had committed suicide. Others remained completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the web. They are the ones I worry about the most. I sincerely hope you will forgive me, Mr. L., but last summer when you contacted me and my husband about the interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy diskette. I did not care if Smile Dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger, someone I had no connection with. I thought I would not feel sorrow when you took the diskette as part of your research and sealed your fate.
Before you arrived, I realized what I was doing. Was plotting to ruin your life. I could not stand the thought, and in fact I still cannot. I am ashamed, Mr. L., and I hope that this warning will dissuade you from further investigation of Smile.jpg. You may, in time, encounter someone who is, if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved. Someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile.dog's orders. Stop while you are still whole. Sincerely, Mary E. Terrence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had killed herself. While cleaning up the various things she left behind, closing email accounts and the like, he happened upon the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me to listen to his wife's advice. He found the diskette. He revealed and burned it until it was nothing but a sticking pile of blackened plastic. The part that disturbed him most, however, was how the diskette had hissed as it melted, like some sort of animal, he said.
I will admit that I was a little uncertain about how to respond to this. At first I thought perhaps it was a joke, with a couple belated playing with the situation in order to get a rise out of me. A quick check of several Chicago newspapers' online obituaries, however, proved that Mary E. was indeed dead. There was, of course, no mention of suicide in the article. I decided that, for at least, I would not further pursue the subject of Smile.jpg, especially since I had finals coming up the end of May. But the world had odd ways of testing us. Almost a full year after I returned from my disastrous interview with Mary E., I received another email. Hello. I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you have interest in Smile Dog. I have saw it. It is not as bad as everyone says. I have sent it to you here. Just spreading the word. Smiley face. The final line chilled me to the bone. According to my email client, there was one file attached called, naturally, smile.jpg. I considered downloading it for some time. It was mostly likely a fake, I imagined. And even if it weren't, I would never wholly convinced of smile.jpg's peculiar powers. Mary E's account had shaken me, yes, but she was probably mentally unbalanced anyway, after all. How could a simple image do what smile.jpg was said to accomplish? What sort of creature was it that would break one's mind with only the power of the eye?
I'm almost there, hold on.
And if such things are patently absurd, then why did the legend exist at all?
Smiley face. The final jump.
If I download the image, if I looked at it, and if Mary turned out to be correct, if Smile Dog came to me in my dreams demanding I spread the word, what would I do? Would I live my life as Mary had, fighting against the urge to give in until I died? Or would I simply spread the word, eager to be put to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I do it? Whom would I burden in turn?
If I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about smile.jpg, I decided I could attach it as evidence, and anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest, would be affected. And even assuming the smile.jpg attached to the email was genuine, would I be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yes. Yes, I could. Credit anonymous.
And that's a picture of the Smile Dog.
And then it is a picture of the Smile Dog. The super fucking creepy looking dog.
I don't know, I find him kind of cute, actually.
Yeah, the teeth kind of throw me off, but the rest of it's not that bad.
I enjoyed the story.
It
But
was
do
a
you want to
good
know
story.
something?
What?
I really hated the big words, and also I found it funny. I was like, well,
I think it keeps going. There's like more.
Really?
Like right after it.
Oh, I thought that was the end.
It says
My page
overview.
reloaded.
Oh no, it says overview. Oh, so it's just an overview of the story? It's just an overview.
Okay, but I just wanted to... I almost laughed or broke when he was like, a woman died. I was going to research it, but there's like finals next week.
Yeah, so I was like, whatever.
There's
Fuck.
finals coming up. I can't focus on the fact that a lady's dead. You know what I mean?
Did you send me a It was the
Yeah, I sent you one.
like a 30-minute one.
Yeah.
Do you want to read?
Actually, my phone's at 3%, so you have another one, right?
Yeah, I do. It's like 12 minutes long.
Yeah, I'll let you read it.
The entire thing?
Yeah.
Oh, you better pray my shit don't break.
Well, my phone's at 3%, so I was gonna...
So, yeah, that's fair. Okay. This one is called I Found a Letter from My Stalker. We can read the other one. Probably not yet.
Maybe. Who knows?
Depending on if your phone dies. Okay, this one's about the same length as Smile Dog.
Okay, I wish you luck.
Thank you. Note start. I found this note nailed on a tree in front of my lawn. I really don't know how to describe it. I'll just let you read it yourself. I saw you today. Oh, I have to read this in a stalker voice. I saw you today. It was your birthday. You didn't see me. You hardly ever do these days. Your skin looks so nice and healthy, and your eyes, they were the most beautiful I'd ever seen them. You've grown so much. I remember how differently you used to look when you were younger. I remember the day I first met you. It was 4 years ago. I was sitting at a desk, head down, listening to the teacher rattling off names for attendance. The teacher called out a name I didn't recognize, and a stranger's voice behind me answered. Was there a new student? The teacher didn't pause for a second, just continued calling out names after name. I turned my head to where the voice had come from. I saw you, a pale thing, so thin, your eyes so red, at a seat that should have been empty. I saw the fireflies around you, flickering, dozens of them, never straying far from you. I saw them going through you and coming out through your skin, like you were a mist to them. Can you believe I thought you were a ghost? No one else seemed to acknowledge the new stranger sitting at the back of the class. Class after class, hour after hour passed as I waited for something to happen, for someone to notice you, for you to leave, for you to let out a ghoulish scream and claw at me, like in the horror story I was certain I was in. But nothing happened. Teachers came and went. My classmates laughed and slept, and you just sat there. The bell rang for recess. The other kids ran to their mundanities for the day, leaving me and you together in the empty classroom. You stood up and pulled a chair from the desk next to you, making it face your desk. You turned your head to me and spoke. Well, you're slow today. Come on, ask me your questions. I didn't know why I didn't run away screaming at that moment. Probably would have turned out better for me in the long run, but let's not speculate. I guess at that point in my life, I was pretty bloody lonely. I figured there was only a 50-50 chance you'd eat me, and the other 50 was that someone wanted to talk to me. Kids' priorities don't make sense to me either these days. So, when I went along with the flow, I walked over to your desk, sat down at the chair you pulled out for me, and asked my question. What were you? You told me you didn't know. You said that once you were a child, just like me, with parents and friends, you used to go to the same schools as me. Then, one day, one ordinary day, when you were 10, you just woke up and you were like this, covered in fireflies, and no one could remember you the moment they concentrated on anything else. No one, not even your parents. You told me of how I'd notice you every day, how I'd think of you until recess every day, how I'd come to you every day, how we would talk every day, how we would meet for the first time every day for the last 3 years, about how I'd forget the instant I walked out of the room, how everyone would forget you, how the fireflies would make them, how for the last 3 years you'd been alone. Your story was very hard to believe, so I didn't. I asked what reality prank show I was on. You looked, well, unimpressed, and asked me to continue telling my story. I was caught off guard by the non sequitur. You said last time I was here, I was telling you a story, a horror story about a haunted house. As you detailed the story, goosebumps prickled my skin. It was a story I'd been making up in my head, a story I hadn't told anyone yet. At that moment, a million reactions were open to me, all simultaneously adequate and inadequate. But the one thing that seemed proper was to finish the story for you. So I did. Halfway through, you interrupted me to ask if my mother had recovered from her sickness yet. I had to shake my head, a bit ashamed at the fact that I shared this private matter with a stranger. The story ended a few minutes before recess. My next class was in another room. You told me to go. Your steadiness took me back. You seemed so accepting of your fate, like you'd already gotten used to the idea of being forgotten forever. I was a kid back then. I wasn't a particularly smart kid, and I was probably on the onset of a crush. So you can excuse what I did next as an example of my childhood stupidity. I grabbed my scissors, pressed it against my arm's skin, and dug in. As it drew blood, I pushed it forward till the cut formed the shape I wanted. Letter by letter, I carved your name onto my arm. Just so you know, I don't regret that. Don't get me wrong. Kid power might have made me do it, but it sure as hell didn't make the pain go away. It was one of the most painful experiences of my life. But even then, as a kid, I thought what was happening to you was unfair. I remember how your eyes looked when you saw that, the confusion. How strange it was for you that anyone would want to remember. I remember that look so clearly. When I woke up the next day and saw your name on my arm, I remembered you. I didn't forget. That day, for the first time, we had a conversation that wasn't so one-sided. You said no one had done anything like that before, and I suggested I might have a mental illness. I won't deny it. That drew a little blood. As we talked, a creeping thought came into my head. Did you prefer when I didn't remember? That night, I was sitting up on my bed, staring at your name on my arm, wondering if I should cover it up so I couldn't see it and give you back your privacy, when I heard a crash. I looked up to see my bedroom window shattered and dirty and a rock on my floor. I looked out of the cracked window to see a dark figure on my lawn. You were outside yelling about how we should hang out. It took me a while to get used to how bad you were at talking to people. Years without practice made you quite a bit rusty. That was all right. We had a lot of time. For the next 2 years, we spent most of our free time together. Most of the time, we talked. You tell me an aspect of your life and how you lived. You still stayed in your old house. Your parents never noticed the food that had gone missing, never noticed the extra room, or that you'd stolen the extra keys. One night, I confided in you that I was beginning to think you were a part of my imagination, Fight Club style. After all, what could you do to me that I couldn't do to myself? I spent the next month or so trying to leave bite marks on my ear or neck to prove a point. I still have a few scars on my ear, so I guess you did. Oh, you spent the next month or so trying to leave bite marks on my ear or neck to prove a point. Looking back, I could see the warning signs even then. Your skin seemed to get worse and worse, paler and paler, as you rubbed your eyes raw. It was in winter when we had our wake-up call. The morning began like any other. I woke up, brushed my teeth, and started searching for clothes to wear. It was a winter morning, and my room was dark, so I didn't see your name on my arm. The cold shivers through my body, and pulled out a long-sleeved jacket. A small bell rang in my head. Don't you usually roll up your sleeve? Yeah, and why did I? That was annoying. I finished tidying up and headed to school. On the school bus, I felt oddly content, like something I'd been worrying about had just disappeared. I walked to the school stairs, down the hall, through my classroom door, and sat down at my desk. The same feeling of a burden forgotten hounded my mind. What was I forgetting? When recess came, I just sat at my desk while my classmates ran out. It felt like a ritual, but I didn't know what for. I was contemplating just walking out to join them when I heard. It was something small in the wind, like a whisper, but it came over and over, insistent. It sounded like my name. I knew this was strange, that this was worth my attention, but I felt oddly calm. Everything would be all right. Everything would be just fine. Just ignore it. I sat there at my desk, my mind a war zone between two conflicting, contradictory voices, when I felt a force tugging on my sleeve. The moment I noticed this, my jacket sleeve tore open. I saw your name on my arm, and then your hand that had ripped my jacket open. You'd been yelling at me for over 20 minutes. I think that was the moment I realized how on edge our friendship really was. One accident away from complete erasure. We spent most of the next year in the town library together, trying to find out what the fireflies were. It wasn't really a problem for me. Because of my mother's treatment, my family couldn't afford to go on any trips, and our house didn't have any heating anymore, so I was happy to spend my time with you. Trying to find information was a puzzle in of itself. After all, how would I read about people I couldn't remember, and how would you find out who was special when no one could even remember enough about them to record them? We found our old family trees and records. Individually, we'd write down the name of everyone in the book on 2 lists, and then we would compare. The names I hadn't remembered to write down, but you had, would become the focus. They were the names who were under the curse of the fireflies. Don't worry loud. We compiled a list of suspicious books. Books we thought that could help us because they were written by or were about the people we were searching for. I read the books with the list of names side by side, reading it again for every page of the book. You scoured the internet on the library computers, on the lookout for articles about the people. Our search would lead us to find the first glimpse we got of what really was happening to you. It was late night when you found the picture. I was a bit drowsy at the time, and almost about to nod off when I heard a sharp intake of breath. I turned to see you standing up, pointing at the screen. I didn't see anything. Well, anything noteworthy. On the screen was a picture of a clearing somewhere in the woods. You held up your piece of paper where you'd marked out 2 names. Susie Appleby Reagan, 13, Terry Appleby Reagan, 12, siblings. For a moment, I saw the paper and the screen side by side. And then I saw them. 2 figures emerging from the woods towards the camera. They were almost humanoid, with the exception of their limbs, which stretched out to nightmarish proportions. Their blank, white skin was that of a pure albino, and looked more like tree bark than anything you could expect to find out on a mammal. A cloud of fireflies surrounded the duo. The shorter one looked emaciated. I could see their rib cage, around which their eyes, so small, so red. The taller one with its white hair didn't look alive anymore. They were little more than skin wrapped around a skeleton. Fireflies swarmed out of the pair's empty eye sockets. Both reached for the cameraman. I looked at the article surrounding the picture. It was a blog post by a hiker. 20 years after the last mention of the 2 kids. The picture was a mystery to the cameraman as well. He'd been wanting to go to the woods pictured for a while now, but he never actually remembered going there. The picture had just appeared on his camera one day, out of the blue. For a moment, I looked at your face, your thin, pale face, with those red, veined eyes. Would that be you when my scar faded? Just a walking horror I'd glimpse, then forget? We worked through our reading list, and at a much faster pace starting from that moment. Maybe we should have gone slower. At least every book, every website we'd left untouched promised hope. The books that we finished and tossed aside promised nothing but the clearing in the woods as one's future. And we tossed aside a lot of books. I believe I tore through 3/4 of my reading list before I stumbled across the journal. Oh, God, that horrible, horrible journal. The journal used to belong to a mental patient named Joey, who claimed to be a serial killer. He was locked up in an asylum when the police discovered his supposed victims that never existed. He was diagnosed with a need for attention and shoved away. They should have electrocuted him. They should have fried him until his flesh melted on his hair and his hair burned. In the journal, he talked about how he carried out his killings. He knew things, bizarre and disturbing things no one else knew. He knew of strange creatures that lived in the woods. Of them, his favorites were the fireflies. I'm not going to tell you how he summoned these things. I trust you. I trust you more than anyone. But a thing like this belonged to the ground more than it ever will to the human mind. In the end, it's sufficient to know that these things were not fireflies. Joey would start his ritual by taking a kid, any kid, anyone he pleased. He could take them at any time, in the dead of night from their own homes or in broad daylight in front of yards. It didn't matter if he was seen. He'd take them to his house. Fuck! My shit just reloaded. No, you piece of shit. Why do you just do this to me? No!
And that one of the best parts too. It was like
I was really getting into this.
It was actually getting interesting.
Dude, fuck. Dude, it's gonna take me so long to scroll down. Fuck. Oh my god, it's so fucking far. List of names, Sally, human, god. For a moment, maybe bugs tossed, diagnosed. It didn't matter if he was seen. He'd take them to his house and drag them inside. Usually, an Amber Alert came up at that point. He didn't care. Like I said, it wouldn't matter soon. He dragged them to a special room in his house. Here, the fireflies would come and latch on to them. Now, nobody was searching for the kids. Not the police, not the parents, nobody. From then on, he could do whatever he wanted to the kid. He'd get bored of them after a day or two, after the child had broken. At that point, he'd dispose of them. Hacksaw, kitchen knife, anything would work. He detailed a large pit of bodies he kept in the woods, swarming with bugs. One day, I guess he got bored of that too, so he went right to the police station and turned himself in. Not on account of guilt, no. He just wanted someone to know about the stuff he was doing. Sick bastard. Oh, don't get the wrong idea. He never stopped killing kids. The asylum doors didn't stop him from doing what he liked. It just made him improvise. He made a new way. He modified the flies so they could survive without a host, just in a dormant state. When a child, he specified the age, would approach the swarm, it would latch on and begin its effects. Over the years, the child would warp horribly into those things we saw in the woods. I wish I could hate him in peace. I wish I could say the world owed him nothing. But that wouldn't be true. He detailed a way out. On the final page, there was an exact explanation of how to get rid of the fireflies. You must have seen something in my face because, at that moment, you asked if I had found anything. I said no and closed the book. A few minutes later, you shut down the computer. You picked up the last book and went through it yourself. When you reached the end cover, you tossed it aside. I asked what we should do now. You said it was all right. I could go home. We talked about it in the morning. I stood up and walked past the shelves of books. I headed for the library entrance, but stopped right outside the door and waited. I waited until I heard the sniffling sounds. I sneaked back to our table, where you were quietly sobbing. You had your head in your hands. I sat back down as you raised your eyes to me. You said you'd wish you'd never met me. How happy you were when you had nothing to lose. How I ruined your life. You'd never really gotten better at talking to people. That was the worst love confession I'd ever heard. I remember how we kissed that night. I remember your hands gripping my hair. I remember that kiss. I wish it could have just been a kiss. I'm sorry I ruined that moment. When my arms were around you, I was close enough to steal a firefly without you noticing. I remember holding the firefly in my hand. I remember how it struggled until it didn't, until it was a part of me. The fireflies shifted. They came over to me and left you. I remember the familiar look in your eyes, the confusion. I never wanted to see that confusion in your eyes again. You deserve to be loved, and you deserve to know that. I wasn't really living anyway. You reached for me. I pulled away as the last lights of recognition faded from your eyes, and then you were just staring at a stranger, walking away into a crowd of strangers. That was a year ago. You've gotten so much better since then. You have so many friends now, so many people at your birthday party. You also look so much healthier. I haven't been as fortunate. My skin's gotten a lot paler, and my eyes hurt all the time now. I couldn't go to school like you did all those years. I haven't wasted my time, though. I found Joey's pit. The bodies. There were so many bodies. There's a grave for those children now. Without me, my mom could afford her surgery. She looked so happy. Just yesterday, I saw her playing with my baby brother. I saw you crying yesterday. You were with your friends, laughing. For a brief moment, your eyes met mine, and then they were so wet. I think I'm going away now, for good, I think. You're not going to be happy if I stick around. So happy I met you, even if you don't remember me. No end. Sometimes I go through depressive episodes. I feel so lonely, even with my friends. I don't know what's going through my head during these times. And sometimes I'd end up in a bathtub, a knife in my hand and my wrists bleeding. Until now, I thought I was cutting my wrists. I wasn't. These cuts, they're letters. I've been carving a name onto my arm. And that's it.
Damn.
It's beautiful.
I wasn't expecting it to be a romance at the end.
Yeah, I was not expecting. I thought like a note from my stalker, and it was just gonna be like, you know,
Just like an
a
average
note.
stalker story.
Like I thought it was gonna be like something creepy or something, but no, it was just like a super tragic story.
Yeah, I actually got sad at the end.
That was like sad. No. Wow.
That was actually a very good story.
No, it's very well received. It has like a 9.08 out of 10.
And like
3,000 votes too.
The worst part is before that, when like he was talking about the murder, or like the guy, I was like, damn, I'm gonna make a joke about how this reminds me of the Mummy.
No, bro, it is not the Mummy. Oh, that voice, Loki, like hurts my throat.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised you actually kept up the voice the entire time. Actually,
The voice, Loki, like it didn't even like it wasn't like hurting my throat. It was like hurting like right under my chin.
well, yeah, because you were like, you kept on doing like the low voice the entire time.
Yeah, you had to do the voice like this one. It sounds like a stalker.
It sounds like a stalker. Oh, okay. Do you think that's time?
Yeah, I think that's we met our time. It's 9:10 now. We were only like it's like 50 minutes.
Yeah. So that's it for the Something Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the CreepyPastas. I was there for a good like 10-20 minutes.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Shout out to the birds.
And stay away from fireflies.
That's what we learned today.
Stay away from don't talk about The Simpsons. Stay away from fireflies.
And don't look at a picture of a creepy ass dog.
If someone sends you a smiley face, you run or you block the email. And I'm Zoma.
And I'm still Lucas.
Bye-bye.